One of the most difficult challenges you might ever take on is to become a caregiver. And you might think it's easy if you've never done it. I mean, how difficult can it be? Well, it can be very difficult. And one of the biggest problems, potential problems for caregivers is caregiver burnout. Well, if you're wondering what exactly we mean by that and what can we do about it, stay tuned because that's what we're going to talk about today. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. Well, my guest today is the one and only Jen Dral from Ascend Health. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Andrea. Excited to be here with you and the Scan folks this morning.
Happy to see you. It's been a little while. And I think we have an important topic. I still feel like it's a new year. People are still adjusting to the fact that it's 2023. I'm still adjusting to write that down. And, this whole caregiver situation, it just goes on and on for so many folks. And caregiver burnout, it's really a thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think more people are caregivers now than ever before. So I think it's a timely topic to talk about.
Before we even get into it, Jen, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do at Ascend Health?
Sure. I'm the director of business development for the entire state of New Jersey. So a lot of what I do is providing education and spreading the word about a resource that is available to people at end of life. We do primarily hospice services. So we're caring for people during their last weeks, months, years of their life, whatever the case might be, focusing on quality of life and comfort and support for the family as well as the patient. We do also do palliative care, which is not necessarily for people that are at their end of their life, but also who are looking to manage symptoms and focus on comfort and quality as well.
Yeah, everything is really focused on comfort and quality.
Yes, yeah. So important.
Now, while we're all focusing on the comfort and quality for the patient, unfortunately, sometimes the caregiver does get overlooked. Sometimes they overlook themselves.
Absolutely.
So what do you want to, I'll let you start the conversation. The difficulties of being a caregiver.
As you said earlier, I think a lot of people don't even know how hard it is until they're in it. It's probably one of the most difficult things to take on. And very often, as people are going through providing care, they're realizing the different challenges that come along with it. There's limited resources a lot of times for long-term care. It can be very, very costly. So a lot of people are in a position where they're a caregiver because there's a lack of other options. Other people choose to care for their loved one at home because that's where they're most comfortable and they're choosing to care for someone at home. But there's a lot of challenges around that. There's the physical aspect, the actual providing of the care that can be harder on someone than you're even thinking about. You're the person that might be responsible for bathing someone, for changing someone, right. And that person may be heavier than you, or just as heavy, and you don't even know how to kind of tackle that physical task of caring for someone. You may be helping to get someone out of bed and into a wheelchair or to the bathroom if they're still able to. So just the physical piece can be hard. It can be super time consuming. You may be caring for someone round the clock, so it's exhausting. The mental and emotional demands are just as taxing as the physical. You're now maybe not sleeping as much as you were before. You're making decisions that you've never even thought of before you were in that position of being a caregiver. Making those choices. Do I bring in extra help? Am I able to bring in extra help from a financial perspective? How are you balancing responsibilities with The caregiving, if you're still working, that can be super challenging. If there's other people that you're caring for, if you have your own health issues, which is a
Mhm.
very real challenge for many people, it can be super overwhelming to take on not just the physical pieces, but those emotional pieces. You may be thinking for the first time about your loved one's mortality, and how are you going to cope with that? That anticipatory grief, even before you've lost someone. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot to take on.
It is. And you know what? The caregiver is probably walking around 24/7 in a state of exhaustion.
Yes. Yes.
And while you're so busy taking care of someone else, and, like you said, Jen, you might have children at home, especially if you're part of that sandwich generation. You've got older parents, you've got younger children. And by the way, caregiving is not just for older parents. You can be caregiving for a child. I mean, it could be your husband, your wife, that sort of thing. But just imagine, well, just listening to what Jen said, that person, that caregiver is 24/7. It really doesn't go away. How do you
Yes.
even have time to make yourself a cup of tea? How about go to the bathroom, take a shower, brush your own teeth?
Yep. Grocery shopping, all of the things
Yeah.
that come along with just living your life, and then factoring in that caregiver role, which, as you said, very often that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no vacation from that.
No, there is no vacation for that. So no wonder caregivers get completely burned out. And
Yes.
I'm thinking to myself, it probably doesn't take all that long. It's not like you're caring for someone for 5 years and then you get burned out. I could see, after 5 hours, you're in a state of exhaustion.
Yes. Yes. And then that's compounded if there isn't any additional help, if there isn't outside support. I think taking on caregiving when there are, five other family members that are sharing in that burden, that's one thing. But very often, there's that primary person that's taking on the bulk of the responsibility, or maybe there is nobody else that's helping. So it is a 24-hour a day, 7 day a week job with no support, no extra help. And that can be really, really challenging.
So as a caregiver, you're doing this. Obviously, there's a lot of risk involved. First of all, there's even physical risk of you getting hurt
Of
as the
course.
caregiver, because most of us were not, if not all of us, we were not trained in how to transport someone from a bed to a wheelchair.
Yes.
I mean, I could see a lot of issues, hurting yourself or potentially even hurting the person that you're taking care of. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a scary thing too. So now you're under such tremendous stress. What are some of the signs to look out for, Jen, before we just burst?
Yes. So I think that that's super important to be in tune with your body and recognizing those signs of stress. And they're different for everyone. So I think, it's important to be aware of what your personal signs of stress are. For me, I very rarely get migraines, but when I do, it's usually when I'm very, very stressed out. So it
Yep.
might be something like headaches. Maybe it's GI issues. That's a very common stress indicator. Nausea, cramping, diarrhea. Long-term stress can lead to things like ulcers. Whether it is that muscle tension, whether it's getting sick all the time, it's paying attention to those signs of stress and making sure that you're taking time for self-care before you get to that point where you're really burned out. Exhaustion is a big warning sign. Feeling overwhelmed or having a really short fuse. Someone who usually has a lot of patience, maybe it's just that one little thing the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you really have to pay attention to those warning signs and those physical things that are happening within your body, and paying attention to that, because it's really dangerous to let it get to a point where you've exhausted yourself beyond that norm.
So I feel like as the caregiver, you're so engrossed in the whole
Yes.
care situation that you might not even be paying attention to your
Yep.
own, not that you have your shoulder hurts, you're this, you're that, you have heartburn or chest pains or whatever. So I feel like it's going to require a very conscious effort on your part
It is.
as the caregiver to focus on yourself, even for 5 minutes, to know something isn't right. But now that you're in that moment, you're realizing as the caregiver, Jen, this is not going well. Now what do I do?
I think it's that, when you're on an airplane and they say, in the event that the oxygen masks come down, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to put your own mask on before you
Yes,
help anyone else.
that
Because if
absolutely.
you pass out, you're not of any good to the people around you. So I think the same thing goes for being a caregiver. Before you get to that place that you are burned out, that you are, waving that white surrender flag, it's important to take that time, because I think so many caregivers do ignore those signs. They ignore their own health. They ignore, okay, you know what? I'm exhausted. It doesn't matter. I have to just keep pushing through. But what you said is so important. Before you get to that place of being burned out, of being overwhelmed, you have to take time for yourself. Self-care when you're a caregiver is first and foremost the most important thing that you can do for yourself. And again, that looks different for everyone.
Mhm.
It's finding that way that you let go of the pressure, that with we all have our instant pots, our pressure cookers now, and you have to kind of release that valve every day a little bit, even if it is just for 5 minutes. It's finding that thing that you find relaxing and taking that time for yourself. Because if you don't do that consistently, you're going to end up in a place where you are no good to the people that are counting on you. So whether it is reading, whether it's prayer, listening to music, going for a walk, getting a little bit of exercise, taking a few minutes to enjoy a shower, relax in the shower.
Which
It's
probably would be a luxury, think
Yes.
for a caregiver, right?
Yes, but super, super important to find those moments to care for yourself. And I know that it seems like it's something that's so hard to do, but it is something that can be done in just 5 minutes, whether it's, before you go to sleep at night, listening to a guided imagery exercise on YouTube. And there's a million different things that you can find out there that don't take a lot of time to decompress, to de-stress, to take that moment of self-care for yourself that is so important before it becomes a crisis situation.
And there's always the opportunity for people to ask a friend or someone, can you just stay in the house for an hour so I can
Yep.
go out and take a walk, or I can, run out to the grocery store? The old saying, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yes.
And I know that many people are reluctant to even ask for help as the caregiver.
Yeah.
Can someone just sit in the house for a little while I run out? If you don't ask, you won't. This is the way it will be, but there's nothing wrong with asking. And maybe
So
even
right.
aren't there respite opportunities
Yes.
for people?
Yes, there are. So, and again, this is something that most people don't know is even available, but there is a respite option. Nursing homes and assisted livings all have respite stays available, so that if you're at that point where you are hitting a wall and you have nothing left in the tank, it's okay to take some time. It's okay to ask for that assistance. And those are resources that are available for just that reason. Um, if someone is on hospice services, that's a piece of hospice service, that respite, where, we can set someone up to go and have, even a 5-day respite stay in a nursing home. So that there's someone that's there caring for your loved one
Right.
24 hours a day, and you're able to take that time for yourself if you need it. There's a lot of other resources that are available if you know where to look, whether it is, reaching out to a geriatric care manager to help get some additional resources placed in the home. Within Monmouth County has an office on aging that has a whole team of professionals that can help connect you with the resources that you need and the support that you need. There are support groups, there's caregiver support groups, there are dementia support groups. If you're caring with someone for dementia, that can actually be some of the most challenging caregiving that you're doing. Someone with dementia very often is up and about during the night. They may be wandering and you have to keep an eye on them all the time. So that's super, super challenging. But there's all kinds of resources and support that's available for those caregivers as well.
So where is a good place for someone to start if they are looking for resources? Whatever county you live in, would maybe the first place be the county office on aging?
Yes,
That would
that's
be
a fantastic place to start, because they have a whole database, if you will, of different resources and different providers. They can, if you want to connect with a care manager, a geriatric care manager, they have all kinds of resources that are available to that end. And they have already vetted a lot of these people, so they can connect you with the most reliable potential supports. If you need to reach out to a home health care company to get maybe a couple hours a day of somebody to come in and give you some relief so that you're able to do your grocery shopping, to take a shower and take care of yourself, and all of those things that tend to fall by the wayside when we're worried about caring for someone else.
The caregiver has a doctor appointment. The caregiver,
Yes.
And if there's other kids in the house or just other people in the house and somebody else needs something, I feel like we can't be martyrs. We can't, nobody can do this but me, which is such a trap with people. Nobody else can do this but me. Well, that's not true. And if you don't take care of yourself, well, you won't be doing it much longer either.
100%. If you're not taking that time for yourself, if you're not reaching out for help and support when you need it, you are going to get to a place where you're hitting a wall and you're burned out.
You'll need the caregiver.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So there are resources, there are options, and I feel sometimes we're our own worst enemy as the caregiver, because we just feel like nobody can take care of mom like I can. Nobody can do this as well as me. But, think of yourself, take care of yourself, especially if other people are relying on you too.
Yes. Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, if you get to that place where you are burned out, or you're getting sick, or your own health is compromised, you can end up in a position where you're literally incapable of being a caregiver anymore. So it's important to take those measures, to reach out for help, to get the support that you need, and to do that self-care regularly so that you're able to keep being the best that you can, and provide that care that your loved one is needing.
So caregiving is a tremendously challenging, but also can be very rewarding.
Yes. Yes.
And I just think that the secret here is taking care of the caregiver.
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And a good resource to start with, just your starting resource, again, we'll repeat it, would be your county office on aging. Every county has one, and maybe that's your starting point if you simply don't know where to go. But please do something. Don't become a victim of caregiver burnout.
Take time for yourself, reach out when you need help, and make sure that your own health and mental health as well is a priority.
Yeah, your mental and physical health is really important. If you're planning on helping someone else, you need to be okay to do it. And if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not really going to be in a great position to help anyone else. And I know we always think we're, Superman, Superwoman, but We're not. So it's
No.
okay. It's okay to admit it though.
Yes, we're all human. We all have limits.
We
And
don't
we
like
have
to
to
admit it
recognize
though.
those limits. I know, I know. And I think anyone who is being a caregiver, you do want to, take on everything yourself. And, you think that you're going to be the only option, the best option. But sometimes
Right.
to be the best, you need to reach out for the help that you need.
Okay. And always remember that analogy that you said before, Jen, about being on the airplane. When the oxygen mask falls down, you have to put yours on first before you can help anyone else. So
Yes.
I think of this as putting on your own oxygen mask so you'll be ready to help the people that you are charged with the responsibility of helping. Right?
Yes.
Be smart.
Self-care is vital.
It is. Jen, thank you so much for your wisdom today. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Andrea. Happy to be here.
All right, so our guest today was Jen Dral from Ascend Health. We've got all her contact info on the screen. I'll put the rest of her contact info below if you want to reach out to her. Remember, your county resources, that's the first place to try. Okay. If it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone. Bye, Jen.
Bye-bye. Thanks.